Good day, beautiful people. Welcome back to the channel. So today we have Miss Snow is going to be coming back home to Miss Toya is her owner. So we're going to be doing the reintroduction and taking Miss Toya through the process of what she's learned so she can obviously maintain it back at home, right? So normally when we reintroduce a dog back into the house, we do what I like to call the basically the reintroduction, which means I know a lot of the emotions and behaviors that are associated with being in this space are going to pop back up. So we have to kind of correct that before we get into the house, right? Because we don't want to enter the threshold of the house with her going through those same emotions, because those emotions are going to carry over into the house. So the goal here is for every behavior and emotion that we created while she was with me to carry over into the house here, right? So you guys know the main tactics that I like to use, which is the aggressive tap on the shoulder and the doing the least to the most. So that's pretty much what we're going to be doing to get her into the house, and then we're going to transition her over. We're going to basically give the power over to Miss Toya and let her take the rim. So let's get it done. Let's get it done. Hey, sit. So what I want you to pay attention to is her attention span, right? Very short attention span. Very short attention span, right? So the easiest way to correct that, now there's multiple ways to do it, right? Now we haven't fed her. And I did that on purpose because I want to use that as a tool so you can have more leverage. As opposed to normally when you feed a dog, you just kind of put the food in the bowl and put it down, right? So now we're going to use the food as a tool to make you more important, right? Which means now in her mind, she's going to have to come directly to you and not through you, which means she knows you put the food in the bowl, but then you just put the food. You see how now she's starting to recognize where she is. So she's getting more excited, right? Which is okay because you get to see the process of how to correct this, right? So I knew it was coming. She was just, she was smelling and figuring it out. So now that she knows you're there, right, all those emotions are starting to come out. And this is what I was talking about. I didn't want to just hand her over to you like this, because now in her mind it's like that first impression. Ooh, I get to do everything I used to do before, right? No, you can't. We're going to correct that first, and then we're going to hand it over, right? So how we correct that is first concept, which you probably saw in one of the videos. I'm sure, I think I sent you a video on that, is the aggressive tap on the shoulder, right? So all I'm doing, basically what that concept means is no different than us when we get tunnel vision. We're locked in on something and somebody is calling us and we're so locked in it doesn't even register, right? It doesn't register until they get close enough to tap them on the shoulder. Hey, I've been calling you, what's going on, right? And then it's like, oh, I'm so sorry, what's going on, right? So it's the same concept here. Now, what we gotta make sure we do with that concept of the aggressive tap on the shoulder, we have to make sure it's fair. And how we make sure it's fair is another concept I use called doing the least to get the most. And how you do that is the first tap on the shoulder is light, right? Now, she responded to that, which is good. But if she didn't respond to it, the next one would be a little bit more aggressive. If she doesn't respond to that, the next one will be a little bit more aggressive, right? So each tap gets a little bit more aggressive until she gives me what I'm looking for, which is attention, right? Good girl, right? That's a good girl. Now, that's the next step. Once she gives me her attention, I have to praise her. I have to thank her for that. Because if not, everything we did before is not going to make sense, right? It's not going to be fair because it's just going to be you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it wrong. But then once she does it right, we're not giving her that recognition of doing it right. Now, with a dog like her, where her attention span is, it's all over the place, right? It's, we have to be so consistent and so diligent and so persistent with that concept. And the longer we are persistent with that concept, the more it's going to increase her attention span. But we have to do that over time, right? Good girl. Come on. That's a good girl. Yes. Now, you see how she's jumping, right? Now, typically, I don't allow that because obviously that's not a behavior that we want. But in a moment like this, when I know her excitement levels are higher, I'm not going to correct her for that. The reason why is because essentially she's giving me the behavior that I want. She's paying attention to me, right? She's every time she does that for her, she's asking me for permission. Well, like, what do you want me to do, right? So now it's my job to give her direction, right? So over time, we can correct that, right? So it's almost like choosing the lesser of two evils, right? Ultimately, do we want her jumping on us? No. But in the moment, what's the more important behavior? Her paying attention, right? Her relaxing, right? So now that she's doing that, I love her up. Right? Good girl. Because again, I want to communicate to her every time she's like that, you get love. When you're not like that, you get correction or direction, right?
Yeah, because I see how she was jumping.
Yep.
And when she stopped,
Exactly. Exactly. And it's only a matter of time they're going to do it because their brain can only do one thing at a time, right? So if they're not getting success with the first thing, they're going to go to the next thing. And the next thing is typically, once they reach that crescendo of doing all that crazy stuff and they don't get the result that they're looking for, the only thing they can do after that is relax. That's the only two options. So sometimes it's just waiting it out. It's just waiting it out. Sometimes there's really no correction needed. It's just saying, hey, look, I got more time than you got. Let me let you figure it out. Because a lot of the time, when they figure it out on their own, they learn it much faster. You see what I mean? It's like us, like when I don't like reading instructions. Like when we're putting stuff together, it just takes too long. I gotta read it. I gotta fix. If I look at the picture on the box, I can put it together much faster. And then if I gotta do it again because I did it the one time, and I actually figured it out as opposed to just reading the instructions and being robotic, the next time I have to do it, it's like, oh, I remember what I did the last time as opposed to just reading the instructions and being, cookie cutter, so to speak, because I actually did it, right? Or I actually figured it out on my own. So it's the same concept. So sometimes, and this is where discernment comes in, this is where patience comes in, where sometimes you say, okay, I'm going to correct this, right? Like, for an example, she went to jump on my son, right? I don't know if you saw it, but I did a slight correction.
Yeah, I saw.
Because that was, okay, you're taking it too far, right? You're jumping on other people. You jumping on me, I can handle that. But once you take it to other people, we got to correct that.
Correct.
So it's kind of using that, that discernment in the moment to figure out, okay, what's worth correcting and what's worth just waiting it out. Yep. So, what is this? I'm calling back. Yes, there we go. Good girl. Now, there we go. Good girl. There we go. So now what we're going to do every time, there we go. Good girl. Every time she gives me this, we're going to move a little bit forward, right? Now, if she starts getting crazy again, we're going to take it back some. Because what I'm relaying to her is, hey, if you're calm, we can get closer to where you want to be. Because I know that her destination is you, right? She wants to get to you. But she cannot get to you in this state of mind. It can't happen. Because then she wins, right? And then everything after that is going to be this. You see what I mean? So this is where we have to be, we have to be steadfast, right? And get her to understand, hey, I have more willpower than you. You see? Yeah. Yeah. Because that's the easiest thing to do in the moment because you don't want her to whine or it's like that whining. And it's a little like, come on now, like relax. But she has to get to the point where she has to understand it doesn't work. Because if you let her win, she's going to keep doing it.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Because in her mind, oh, it's working.
Right.
And they have a very good, hey, right? They have a very good, what's the word I'm looking for? Internal clock where they can time how long you typically have before you give up. Because they're predatory animals. So they have to have that internal clock because obviously out in the wild they have to be able to time when that rabbit is coming out or whatever it is that they're running after, right? So you just have to know, okay, I got to go a minute longer today. I got to go 2 minutes longer today. I got to go 3 minutes longer today. So that way it throws off that internal clock in them, and they start to learn like, oh, okay, she really is about business. Hey, good, good. All right. So now some of that behavior, because we've been here long enough, we're going to start correcting it. Yeah. Hey, sit. Good girl. Sit. Good girl. Sit. Sit.
Want to go sit down? Want to go sit down?
So now, like this was a perfect situation, right? I'm waiting for her. When I tell her to sit, that means sit. Until I tell you to do something else, right? Until I say it's time to move forward.
Right.
So right now, what we're gonna do, I'm just gonna keep putting her in that sit until I'm ready to move forward.
Okay.
Right? Sit. Right. Sit. Now the key word, and this applies to any walk, right? So what we're doing here literally applies to any time you take her out this house and take her for a walk. Everything that we're doing here applies to that, right? So typically what we do is every time we get to a corner, I put her in a sit. Because what that's going to do over time is eventually she's going to learn every time you stop, she's just going to stop and sit automatically, right? That's what that's teaching her. Hey, come.
Thank you. Don't put it on your shoulder. Just hold it. Just sit it next to you. Thank you.
Come. Good girl. There we go. Good girl. Now, what I really want you to pay attention to is her body language, right?
Okay.
Her body language and when I praise and when I correct. Because those two things, the body language and the timing of my correction and praise is important, right? Hey, good girl. There we go. Good girl. Now, for an example, just now she turned all the way towards me, right? So what that told me was, it's like, okay, you don't want me to do this. What do you want me to do? Right? So then the next thing I must do is follow up the correction with direction. Right? It's correction or redirection, kind of similar, the same thing, right? Because I'm redirecting that excessive energy that she's putting towards you back to me. Now, once I do that, it's very important that now I follow up with direction. Okay, you don't want me to do that. Let me give you my attention. What do you want me to do? Sit, right? And it doesn't necessarily have to be sit. It could be come. It could be down, right? It could be anything other than that. You see what I mean? So, and obviously the first thing or the easiest thing to start with is sit, right? Because that's just the easiest thing to do. So you can start with that and then progress to the other things. But it has to be correction / redirection, then give them direction as far as what you want to do. Right? Hey, good girl. Come on. Good girl. Yes. There we go. Asshole. Yeah. Girl. Thank you. Good girl. Yes. I know. We gonna get there. We gonna get there. Hey, sit. I know. Good girl. Heel. So, perfect example, right? When you're going on that walk, As soon as you heal and you start walking and she starts going faster than you stop. Tug the leash, put her in a sit, right? Because again, what that's teaching her is you have to stay at my pace. You see? And that's how we stop that pulling. Yeah? Heel. So, perfect example. Everything, you see how she just gets.
Nosy.
Well, it's, yes, it's that, but it's more so that anxiety, that fear anxiety kicking in. Because in her mind, it's like, is this gonna hurt me?
Oh.
That's what she's thinking in her mind, right? Is this sound gonna hurt me? Is this person walking by gonna hurt me? So she gets like fixated because she's trying to figure out, okay, what is that person doing? And it's whatever they're doing, is it coming from me? As opposed to just kind of existing, right?
So dog toy?
Don't mess with it. Don't touch it.
Good.
Hi.
Hey, sit. Good. Sit.
Don't forget to pee in the dog toy.
Okay.
Come. There we go. Sit. Now also, if you notice it, typically when I do a correction with the leash, I do a correction with my voice. It's at the same time. And the reason why I do that, sit. Sit. The reason why I do that is because eventually what I'm conditioning her for is to associate the correction of my voice with the physical correction of the leash. Because over time, what that's going to teach her is eventually you're not going to have to need the leash to correct her, because once she hears that, hey, it's been conditioned for so long with the physical, right? She's going to automatically respond to it. Sit. Now, with the sit, I use the leash like a steering wheel, right? So I want to steer her in the direction that I want to go. So how dogs work, they naturally have what you call opposition reflex, right? And really it's not necessarily that they are purposely opposing what you're doing. It's really more so physiology telling them like, hey, look, if he's pulling me up, right, I want to stay balanced because they're quadrupeds. So if he's pulling my head up, I want to keep all four of my feet on the ground because that's where I'm most comfortable, right? So physiology is going to tell them in the beginning, oppose what I'm doing with the leash because they want to keep their balance.
Right.
But once you start teaching them like, hey, look, and and we've kind of gotten through that period already. I'm just kind of explaining so you know what you're looking at as I'm doing it, right? She might be about to use the bathroom. Come on, good girl. There we go. So yes, so with the leash, right? Especially when they are in heightened states of emotion, right? You have to use your leash to your advantage. So what I do is I slightly hold the leash up. Now notice when I started slightly holding that leash up, she automatically sat down. Because over time, even though she has that natural opposition reflex, again, physiology is going to say, okay, it's but so long that I can keep this pressure on my back feet, right? Because all the weight is going to the back feet, which is what we want on purpose. We're using our leverage because we're bipedal, so we can easily hold up. Whereas they're much more better at pulling forward. You see what I mean? Because they're 4 feet on the ground, their center of gravity is lower. So now I'm going to use my center of gravity against her, right? So when I pull up, right, naturally what that's going to tell her to do is put her butt down. But see, in the beginning, she fought that.
Right.
Because she didn't know what I wanted from her. But once I taught her like, hey, and this is the process of teaching her to sit. when I started doing this, she would jump up, flip around, right? So what I had to do was assist her. Hey, when I do this, I just slightly pull her butt down, right? Then over time, she realized like, okay, when he does this, he wants my butt to go down. And then it makes it easier because, again, physiology is but so long they can hold their head up without putting their butt down.
Right.
You see what I mean? So that's what that is with the leash, right? I just slightly hold the leash and she automatically sits. And then I coupled that with the word sit. Similar to how I was explaining that when you do the correction, hey, 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 good girl, there we go, that's a good girl, right? Over time, she learns that you don't necessarily have to do the leash for her to sit. When you say sit, she's gonna sit because she's naturally gonna associate the leash with the word. So, hey, come on, good girl, there we go, that's a good girl. That's a good girl. Now, if you're noticing, every time I call for her attention now, she's giving it a little bit faster.
Right.
That's because that excitement is dying down, right? And that's all we're waiting for. That's all we're waiting for is her to just be cool, right? Snow, good girl. There we go. Come on. That's a good girl. Yes. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. There we go. Good. Snow. Snow. Good girl. Yes. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. There we go. We getting there. So any questions so far?
No, I think I got it so far. Yeah, I think I could do it.
Yeah. And here's the thing, right? It's not about being perfect, right? So don't try to be perfect out the gate. It's about getting better at it every day. It's about practicing it every day and getting better at it every day. But you gotta practice it every day, right?
Right.
You can't think that she's just gonna do it, right? Because we've been doing it the last 3 weeks. Because this is a perfect example of we've been doing it perfect for the last 3 weeks. Well, you know, obviously outside of the first week where she really had to learn it.
Right.
But now, new environment. Well, not really new, old environment, right? So now old emotions are coming back. So we have to correct that.
Right.
So, you know, I don't want you to think just because she's doing it with me, she's automatically going to do it with you.
Right. Yeah.
You have to lead her into that. You have to let her know, like, hey, look, all of that stuff you used to do before, it's not going to work. Yes, I'm the same person, but it's a different energy in here now. You see what I mean? Snow. Hey. Good girl, yes. Come on. Right here. There we go. Good girl. There we go. Good girl. Yeah. And if you notice, I don't give her that affection until she comes to me. I don't give it to her out there. I don't give it to her if she goes past me. I only give it to her when she comes to me. Come on now, don't dare yard. Come on. Good. Snow. Hey. Come here. There we go. Good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Yes. And I gotta make sure with the praise that it's just as affectious as the correction, even more, because I really want to drill in like, hey, when you do something right, you're gonna get all the love in the world, right? Good. Hey, sit. Good girl. That's a good girl. That's a good girl. Yes. Sit. Good girl. Oh, what I also didn't say with the pressure, right? So as I lift the leash up, I only hold that pressure for as long as it takes for her to put her butt on the ground.
Okay.
As soon as she puts her butt on the ground, I release the pressure.
Okay.
Because the reason why that's important is because if you keep holding the leash, what you're essentially telling her is you're still not doing what I want you to do, even though she is.
Okay.
And that causes confusion.
Okay.
So the way you communicate is, okay, you did what I want you to do, you release the pressure.
Okay.
The uncomfortable feeling of that pressure being on her neck goes away once she gives us the behavior that we want, right?
Okay.
So again, that timing is important. As soon as she puts her butt on the ground, you got to release that pressure.
Okay.
That way she understands that pressure only stays You cut the pressure off when you do what we're asking you to do.
Okay.
As long as you're doing the opposite of what we're asking you to do, that pressure stays on.
Okay.
Snow. Hey, Snow. Come. Good girl. Yes. There we go. There we go. That's a good girl. Yes. I know you're getting tired now. That's what I'm waiting on. There we go. Good. So little signals like that, right? Like, I don't know if you saw it just now. She turned around and kind of looked at me.
Like, come on.
But she was saying like, hey, can we go now, please? As opposed to saying, we're going now. She kind of turned around and said, can we go now, please? So we move forward. You see what I mean? Every time she looks back and says, hey, can we go now? Sure, because you asked for permission. As opposed to when you're pulling, nope, you can't do it, right? Snow. Come, hey, there we go. Good girl, yes. There we go. Good girl. Good girl. Now, if you really put it in perspective, we've only been out here for what, 10, 15 minutes? How long is the camera?
26 minutes.
Oh, 26 minutes, okay. But again, if you look at the difference from when we started to now, 26 minutes is really not that long.
Right.
Now, if you compound, and again, every day doing it, it gets less and less. Remember, this is an exceptional situation because we're reintroducing her back into the house.
Correct.
But you doing this every day for 10 minutes, after a month, it's going to be a world of a difference.
Okay.
So, and that's the thing about training. Training never ends because real life keeps going, right?
Correct.
You know, it's going to be a situation where a different sounding car is going to come, and she's probably going to respond to that. So now you know what to do in order to counteract that, right? And the reality is, she has to sit in.
Correct.
She has to learn that, hey, that's not going to bother me. Let's just sit here and relax for a minute.
Right.
You see, kind of like when I sent you the video of her in the water, right?
I didn't see that one.
I didn't see your video. I thought I sent you a video. I'll send it to you.
Okay. I saw the other dog in the water. I saw another dog in the water,
Okay.
and she was trying to climb up.
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
oh. I said, come on, you got it. And she
Yeah.
finally got up.
Yeah,
I saw that one.
yeah. So, but it's the same concept. You know, a lot of the time, in order, just like us, in order for us to get over our fears, we have to face our fears. We can't keep running away from it because that's not going to fix it.
Right.
So it's the same thing with the dog. They have to face their fears and sit in it, right? And again, this is where we use discernment, right? You don't want to put too much stress,
Right.
but the only way to build your stress tolerance is to deal with the stress
Right.
until you realize, like, oh, this really ain't that bad. And then we can move forward. So, you know, a lot of those situations, it's just you, right? And sometimes you just let it go crazy, right? But I'm going to actually leave this with you so you have a better tool as opposed to the harness, right? Or even like this collar here, where if she's really determined and it's a little too loose, she'll pull out of it.
Right. Right.
With this slip lead, the benefit is when you put it on, ain't no pulling out of it. Because the more she pulls, the tighter it gets.
Right. Okay.
You see what I mean? So eventually, right, and this is going to sound a little, I want to say gruesome, but the reality is, eventually, if she's that scared, and I've seen her that scared, where literally if I didn't have this slip lead on her, she would be in Dalton somewhere.
Yeah.
But because it got to the point where she was trying to pull so much, right? Obviously, hey, you keep pulling, this is going to cut off your circulation. So you got to choose, stop running or breathe. Which one is it going to be? But see, she's not fighting me. She's fighting herself. I'm just stopping her from getting hit by a car by having a leash on. You see what I mean? So the fight is not with you, right? This is why sometimes when you're in those situations and she's going crazy, petting her, telling her it's okay. Don't say nothing. Just hold the leash. Make sure she can't get away from you. Let her fight that demon herself. And then once she realizes, like, oh, I'm not dead. Nobody hit me. Right? Nothing happens. And she calms down. Then, hey, good girl. Right? You see, that's when you pet her. Because what that's telling her is, oh, the more calm I am, the more blissful things are. The more chaotic I am, the more I stress myself out. So let me learn not to stress myself out. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I'm gonna leave this with you, and I definitely recommend, for your walks, use this. And then it actually has, and I'm gonna show you once we get closer. It has like a button on it to where, because the proper way, and it's gonna slip down every so often, right? Because you don't want to put it so tight to where when it's just on them, it's choking, right?
Okay.
So the key thing with this is when you put it on them, you want it to where it's right up behind their ears.
Okay.
Right? Because again, it's like a steering wheel, right?
Okay.
You have the steering wheel and then you have the collar, right?
Okay.
So this part of her neck is the collar.
Okay.
That's the strongest part of her body. Well, not the body, but that's the strongest part of her head. So you don't want to put what we call is essentially an aversive tool on the strongest part of their body. Unlike the harness. Like you literally have it on the strongest part of their body. And then you couple that with the kind of dog she is. She's a Siberian Husky. Think about what she's bred to do. You see what I mean? So you see how now, and I think I asked you what made you choose this particular breed, and I know it was this kind of situation where you got a dog, but these are the things you got to think about when you start dealing with certain breeds. Because genetically, right, part of the reason why she runs, because that's what she's bred to do. That's what her genetics are telling her to do. Run, right? That's what she knows how to do best. So when you couple all of that together, you start to realize why dogs act the way they do. Because those neurotic traits have been bred into them for our benefit at some point of time.
Right.
But now she's not in Siberia no more. Right? She's not pulling the sled anymore. So we don't want to put a harness on her because that empowers her to do what she's bred to do.
Okay.
You see what I mean? You see how it's starting to...
Yeah.
So now with the slip lead, it's your steering wheel, right? But like I say, just make sure it's right at the base or right behind the ears. And every so often, you're going to have to correct it because it's just naturally going to slide down. But this little button right here keeps it in place a little bit longer. So what you want is, again, you don't want it to be so tight where it's literally choking her just by being on her neck. You want it tight enough to where it's snug and you can still fit at least one finger up under comfortably. Like you can just kind of slide the finger up under there.
Right.
That lets you know she still has enough space to breathe, but it's tight enough to where she can't wiggle her way out of it and you can still use it effectively. Right? Now, this is what I was waiting for. This right here. This lets me know I could literally drop the leash, right? She won't even know, right? Because her brain has surrendered to what we're doing here, right? Like she saw me drop the leash, but it's like, okay, well, we're chilling now, right? I did all of that extra stuff for the last 25, 30 minutes to realize that, man, if I just chill, the world is a better place. You see what I mean? So now what we're going to do, now we can start transitioning into the house.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, come on, pretty girl. Good girl. Yes. Good girl. Good. Yes, ma'am. We'll go in after you.
Please, baby, it's free. Okay, go ahead, baby.
Okay. Braylon, hold the door. Hold the door. Okay, hold the door open so we can come in. I'll go after you, baby.
Okay.
Good. Okay. So now we're in the house, right? So some of the things that we did outside, we're gonna have to do over because it's a totally different day for her, right? I think I said it to you before. With the way dogs think, they're very compartmentalized with how they think and how they process the world. So every moment is a different day for them, right? It's like, you ever heard of the dog years? For every 1 year for us is 7 years for them. It's literally, that's how they think. So what we have to do as handlers and owners of the dogs, in order to get them up to us, we have to come down to them and realize, like, okay, We just spent 30 minutes outside doing all of that, right? And you saw,
Yeah.
she relaxed. I let the leash go.
Right. Yeah.
She didn't.
Saw
Oh,
that.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to let it go just now. But I let the leash. Hey, Snow, come. Snow. Okay. Yeah, no, sweet girl. No, good girl. But yeah, you saw I let the leash go, and we was outside.
We was
She could have
outside.
ran anywhere she wanted to run.
Yeah. That's
But
true.
because her brain surrendered to what we created outside, to her it was like, okay, this is what we're doing. So now we have to create that in here, because it's a different day for her.
Right.
Everything we did outside,
That's like.
it doesn't even matter. But again, through conditioning of doing it every day, it'll start to come together for her, right? So we can't make the mistake of thinking like, man, you know, I just spent 30 minutes outside. You're thinking about what you want a month from now.
Okay.
All she can think about is, ooh, I'm in the house right now.
Right.
New day. You see what I mean? So we have to realize that's how dogs think,
Okay.
because they don't rationalize feelings like we do, right? They're in the moment. Everything for them is right now.
Okay.
So, and they have to be like that because they're predatory animals. If they start thinking about the last hunt that they didn't get, they will starve to death.
Right.
You see what I mean? So they have to be in the moment like that in order to be successful going forward.
Right.
So, and it shouldn't take as long, but now we got to do the same thing, right? There we go, good girl. That's a good girl, yes. Good girl, there we go. Good. I know, good girl. Hey, down. Good girl. There we go, I know. Sit. Now notice, I never asked for it down outside. Right? And the reason why, it was just really like a judgment call. I didn't think she was ready to do the down outside. But once she said, huh?
I said, I saw she did it herself.
She did it herself,
Yeah.
right? So now, and that's what I was about to say, now that she did it herself, now I know I can ask for it. Because her brain can process it a little bit better. You see what I mean? So again, she's a little bit excited because a new day for her, but because of that work we did outside, if we would have just came in the beginning,
She would have been all over.
she would have been all over the place. You see
Running
what?
on the couch.
Oh, she would have been all over the place, right? You see, the first thing she did,
She
right?
did that,
But
yeah.
this is where setting the boundaries comes in, right? So the question is, are you okay with her being in the kitchen?
Sometimes, but only to like a certain extent.
Okay.
She can come like to like right here, but over there where I'm cooking, no.
Yeah. So that's where the boundary has to start, right? And how you do that, the first thing I will recommend is, and I have your other leash in the car. In the house, especially in the beginning for that first month to 2 months, and you kind of feel how long it takes before you see you have control over her to where you don't have to use the leash for her to respond. So when you call her name, she comes to you. When you tell her no, she stops doing it, and you don't have to touch the leash in order to get the reaction.
Okay.
Once you get that, then you don't have to keep the leash on her. But in the beginning, you keep that, hey, good girl, there we go, good girl. You keep that leash on her, so you always have access to it.
Okay.
Because again, that just gives you more leverage. As opposed to when she don't have the leash, you gotta try to touch her. She's gonna win that battle every time. Because she's gonna be running over the place, she's gonna be doing all the silly stuff that she does, and it just becomes frustrating.
Okay. So I'm just using that for outside and the other leashes for it.
No, you keep this on her too, but you just, you put the other leash on here, so you have longer.
Longer, okay.
Yep, because the good thing about this slip lead is, again, it's like that steering wheel.
Okay.
You know, you always have the most control with this slip lead as opposed to this here, where it's, you know.
Cause she didn't, I got so many, well, I threw them out.
Mhm.
I was like, only one that she wasn't able to bite into was this one that tied up really good, and then she
Okay.
wasn't able to bite into that. So,
Yeah, and as long as you, and here's what you don't want to do. You don't want to tie her to something onto this, because if she feels that restriction, that restriction, she's gonna bite it until she gets off.
Okay.
But if it's just loose, she's not gonna bite it because there's no restriction.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't need that, what was that I had? You saw that thing that I had, what was that? It's like the little chain. It's like the little, what's the name that pulls?
Oh, the choke chain?
The choke chain, yeah.
Nah, the choke chain is more of a corrective tool
Okay.
than it is a everyday usage tool, right? So a choke chain is only meant for moments when you are specifically training.
Okay.
That's the beautiful thing I like about this slip lead, because it's not so invasive like the choke chain, to where obviously when you do that choke chain, it's metal, it's more, you know, it's more in your face, so to speak. With this, you can still walk her on it, but it still has that flexibility to where you can use it similar to how you use the choke chain, but it's just not as, what's the word, physically, for lack of a better word, physically harming. Because with that choke chain, obviously it's metal. You put metal on bone, you know, over time, if you overcorrect with a choke chain, it can cause some real problems. So, and that's the thing about choke chains, pinch collars, and things like that. Most people use them as like everyday, you know, usage type tools, and they're only meant to use in short spurts. So yeah, definitely keep this on her. Even like if she's going to, you know, like going to bed for the night, you can just leave it on. Because again, as long as she's not restricted to something, she's not gonna bite it. Yep. Yep. So yeah. So now we're just waiting on that moment. Hey, sit. Thank you, good girl. Now, if you notice, that time I waited for her to sit instead of doing the pressure on the leash, right? Because now I know I have the state of mind to where when I give her the command, she's able to process it. To where before, when I had to, hey, her state of mind wasn't there, so I had to use that physical influence to get her to register what was going on, right? Hey, good girl, yes, sit. Thank you, good girl. That's a good girl, I know. Good girl. Good. So now, we're gonna see how long it takes for her just to kind of submit like she did outside. And then I'm gonna hand over the leash to you. So, well, first, I'm gonna drop the leash, and then you can come pick it up. Yeah. So I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna sit on the couch, just so she can kind of relax with me. No. Good. Girl, down. There we go. Girl. And with the down, I use it the same way, right? The same way as I just slightly put that pressure down, and as soon as she puts her belly on the floor, I release it. Okay. Good. Sit. Good. Sit. No, that's fine. That's fine. She's good right here. Sit. Yeah. Any questions? If you have any questions, just throw them out, because I can keep, you know, going.
I don't have any. I don't know if my son, like, see, he's in work. So.
He's at work. Okay. Yeah, he works from home.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You got any questions? You're not on the camera. Come on, crazy. No, okay. He said, do you have any questions? Do you, I mean, he's showing us how to make her lay and sitting down and stuff like that. So you can see it right here.
Sit.
See, and this the thing, when she sees him, she just goes.
She goes crazy. So
And she would use the bathroom on herself. Just from seeing, she get overexcited.
She get overexcited, yeah. So how you fix that, and it's a process. Typically, when you interact with her, is it fun time?
Just period.
Say that again.
Just period.
Whenever
it ain't fun time unless you see the period.
She goes crazy. So not too hey. Because I can tell she's excited to she wants to get to you. That's why I asked if it's fun time, because I'm looking at, and what I mean by fun time. Okay, so how about I have you tell me, like, typically when you deal with her, what's the routine like?
Just I see her, and or whatever. I don't pay no attention. She just gets jumping over me, doing back.
Okay.
Sit up.
Hey.
This is what she do.
Okay.
She
So,
bite me, I bite her back.
that's playtime.
Oh,
That's playtime. Because think about how dogs play with each other. You see what I mean? So even though to you, it might not translate as playtime, but for her, that's what you're communicating to her. That's why she's getting excited like this. Because for her,
this dog crazy.
yeah, it's all right. But see, this is where, and this is what I was trying to explain.
Because she comes, you should have saw her out there. She was, yeah, you saw, and see, when you came in here, it's a totally different vibe.
Yeah, and that's where, and I think I was explaining this to you when I first picked her up. A lot of the behaviors that dogs do is because of what we tell them to do, and we don't even realize it.
But I only bit the dog twice. Because she bit me.
Okay.
So I bit her ass back. I ain't played bite, I bit her ass for real.
Okay. Well, I mean, you know, I would have to see to really let you know, but I can tell whatever it is about you, and it's not a bad thing, right? And it's actually good that we're seeing it, so we know how to correct it, right?
And see, this
Whatever.
the other one. She goes crazy over him too.
Your son?
My son. So
Okay.
I want to see how she got that when she seen him. She okay. She okay now. Okay. She calling on him. Okay. When he walked in, see, but he the one that wrestles with her and played with her.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, I would have thought she would have went.
Yeah.
You know, really, because I be seeing them down there wrestling.
Yeah.
Him, I mean, it's just so funny when they be playing together. But she just with him, it's just a whole totally different.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, it's kind of hard for me to see it without seeing it, so to speak. But just based off her body language and how she's super focused on you, she likes you. That's a good thing. She loves you. But what you have to be aware of is how you allow her to interact with you. You know, what rules, boundaries, and limitations are you setting so she understands that when she sees you, she's not allowed to just jump on you and do all that crazy stuff, right? So, beautiful. This is what we're waiting on again, right? So, and that's the key thing, you know, and that's why I said a lot of the behaviors with dogs is because either we're allowing them and we're not telling them that it's unacceptable, or we're actually enabling the behaviors, not knowing that we're enabling the behaviors. You see what I mean?
The difference is, if I'm with that dog, and I'm messing with the dog and we chilling, and you come up, the dog will probably try to bite you. She won't do it with her.
Okay, say that again. So
me and the dog just chilling.
Yep.
And you come
just
up,
you and her.
And you like get it on the aggressive tone, the dog will probably try to bite you.
She would.
Yeah.
Okay. You seen her do that before?
Yeah. She did it with my son.
And she didn't know your son?
No.
That's fear. Yeah, that's fear, what we call fear aggression. And it's not even really a bite like a bite trying to like really cause harm. It's a bite like, hey, get away.
I don't know. It's a bite like jump up for your throat and try to bite your throat.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I would have to see that to see, because I've never seen her do that even with strangers. I've never seen her go after somebody like that.
Yeah, the dog will get crazy at times, but it's just I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But
It's something.
Yeah.
The dog is just.
Yeah, it's something, and again, I don't want you to take it personal, but I do want you to realize, like, okay, it's something I'm doing to make her think she needs to act like that around you, right? Because what's it sounding like based off what you're telling me is that for whatever reason, she's feeling like she has to be the protector in that moment.
But it's her dog.
I
Get
feel
around her way more than me. I'm rarely around the dog.
I understand.
When I come around the dog, go nuts.
Yeah, I understand. I get it. But I'm just going based off what I'm hearing, and based off what I'm seeing. You see what I mean? So I could be totally wrong, but I would have to see it to give a better perspective of what's going on, right? But if you're telling me that she's going for his throat, right? Like that's serious behavior.
Yeah, like I mean, literally jump because that dog's strong. And if he knew how to double jump, it'll clear a high gate, period.
Yeah.
If he knew how to jump off again, it'll clear, no problem.
Yeah.
But the way the dog went up, and I don't know if she wasn't aggressive like on a bike, but she like played like the nip. So I know that it's possible for her to do it. She was like, nah, that's not the right thing to do. You know what I'm saying? Maybe not, nah.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, again, that kind of nip is more of a correction than it is aggression, right? That's her, because I mean, think about it, right? We have hands and feet, right? That's typically what we use for protecting ourselves.
Right.
Dogs, they have their mouth. That is their weapon of choice, right? So a lot of the time when dogs use their mouth, we're looking at it like, why are you trying to bite me? But for them, it's no different than us using our hand. You see what I mean? So that's all they know how to use. So when they're using their mouth, we gotta look at, okay, how are they using their mouth? Is she going in for the kill, biting, holding, shaking?
No.
So if it's just that's just, hey, back up. You're coming in too fast, or you're doing something I don't like, I'm giving you a warning.
Okay.
You see what I mean? So that's what it sounds like to me. It just made me sound like in that moment, because she gets excited, she was jumping, and she just kind of.
It's like, for people that she knows, she'll run up and she'll jump on it. Jump on it.
Yeah.
For people she don't, she run up and she jump and she kick off of it.
Yeah.
You know
That's
what I'm
her.
saying? Like all four. And like get back. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's exactly what she's
instead
doing.
of jump up like,
Yeah.
you
I
know
ain't got
what's
a
up.
pain to do it, so.
Yeah. So, but that is based off how you're describing it. That's basically what she's doing. She's that is her way of saying, okay, I don't know you. You're coming in too fast, right?
Okay. Oh, so something
Give
like
me
what we do.
space.
Oh, something like what we do.
Yeah, like just imagine somebody's coming up to you to hug you that you don't know,
Right.
Like,
and they just come in like, oh, wait a minute, like who are you? So it's the same thing.
Right, because see, I had to tell them, you know, when you see the dog, don't get scared and not come up, be cool.
Yeah.
So we come up, he cool. First thing the dog did was to run, jump up, and kick off. Did that twice. Then it was a jump up and nip.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? But not go in.
Yeah.
But just like, all right, nip around, okay. Then it's all right, we cool.
Yeah. That's just her in the beginning, you know, just letting her know, like, hey, you coming in my space. I'm letting you know right now, this is my stuff, right? If you, and she's not even, it's more like a front to see. I'll put it to you like this. The best example I can use, the mailman, right? Most dogs, they'll stand in the window and bark ferociously at the mailman, right? And most people don't understand, why are you so aggressive with the mailman? Well, it's because the first time the mailman came, they barked. The mailman went away. So now, when I start barking like this, you go away. The next time the mailman came, the next day, did it again. So over time, they learn, like, oh, if I keep doing this, then you go away. I win.
oh.
That's why dogs typically get so aggressive with male people.
Okay.
Because over time, they learn, when I go crazy, you go away, right? We literally use the same concept in protection training. It's the same concept. We just, our steps are much more methodical, right? Because we're actually teaching the dog to bite somebody. Most dogs, when they bark like that at the male people, they're not going to bite anybody. It's a front. But in their mind, they're winning. They don't even have to bite, right? Because they're winning. You go away. I bark, you go away, right? So it's that same concept, right? She's testing to see, hey, this is a new person. They coming into my space. What are they gonna do if I nip? Are they just gonna kind of do this, right? Or are they gonna kind of like draw away or turn it back? Like, please stop doing. She's winning because nobody is correcting her, telling her like, no, that's unacceptable, right? That's why, again, when new people come over now, when you have the leash on her, and she start, hey, that's unacceptable. Put her in the sit, put her in the down, right? And then when she's calm, right, you give permission for her to kind of go and inspect, right? Or that person say, hey, come over, let me talk to you, right? So now you're giving her permission to come into your space as opposed to her making the decision, right? Making the decision like this right here, nope, to invade my space, right? Now, the only reason she's doing this now is because that anxiety is building up. right? So she's trying to figure out how to harness this anxiety because she wants to get to him or to you, right? So this is anxiety that you see now. So yeah, hey, come, hey, come, good girl, there we go, good girl, there we go, good girl.
She was better out there than me than with you.
Yeah. Nope. Sit. There we go. Down. Down. There we go. Good girl. Good girl. Yeah, so any other questions?
How you make her lay down and stuff?
Yeah, we just did. Sit. Right? So with a dog like this where her attention span is so sporadic, you have to, there's a bit of discernment you have to use on which technique you use to get her to sit, right? So now in this moment, because I know that anxiety is kicking in, I'm using more of the leash to direct her in the direction that I want her to go, right? So like here, if I just hold the leash for a minute, she's gonna naturally sit down, right? Without me telling her to sit. Because the way I've conditioned her is when you feel that pressure go up, that means your butt goes on the ground, right? But I'm never gonna use a word in this moment when she's barking and doing that excessive behavior like that, right? This right here is not gonna register. So then you're gonna get more frustrated, right? And then you're gonna start using a leash as a weapon and not as a tool, right? And I'm only saying it because this is how most people kind of progress. When you sit, and they don't sit, and then you start jacking up on the leash and using it as a tool of destruction as opposed to a tool for building a relationship with the dog, right? So basically what I'm saying is, when she's calm, then I can use my words. Then I can say sit like we did before he came in. I told her to sit, she sat because I had her brain. Right now, she's getting there, I don't really have her brain. So I have to use my physical to get her brain. So in moments where you see her anxiety and her excitement are up, I use very little words.
Okay.
I use leash.
So I noticed when you lift her up, okay, she sat.
She sat.
Then when you linked it forward, she laid down.
When I go down with it, she goes down.
But also when you link the leash forward, when she was sitting down, she laid down.
Yeah, that could be because she just thought that's what I was, trying to do. But that's typically how it works. When the leash goes up, she goes down. Where her butt goes down. When the leash goes down, her belly goes down.
Okay.
But now here's the key thing, right? Here's where you have to make sure your timing is perfect. As soon as her butt, if you're putting her in the sit with the leash, take the pressure off. It has to come off, right? Because if it doesn't come off in that moment, you're still communicating to her you're not doing what I want you to do. And that becomes confusing for her.
Right.
Because in her mind, it's like I'm sitting, but you're still putting the pressure on, right? So it gotta be as soon as she touches that ground, if you're putting her in the down, as soon as her belly gets on the ground, pressure comes off, right?
And he had dropped the leash outside and she had said, he said, oh, like.
Oh, you was looking at the. So it took an extra what time? It was like 30 minutes when we came in.
Yes, so it's almost been another 30.
Another 30 minutes. So we had an hour.
It took my hour.
But again, this is an exceptional situation. It's not going to be like that every day, right? And then the more you do it, the less time it's going to take. But the key thing is you have to win in every situation, because if you let her win in any situation, it's just going to carry over. Yeah. So now I will call her in, but if she comes in too hot, you get that leash, you correct her, right?
Okay.
So, trying to think how I want you to do it. Yeah, you can just kind of chill there and just call her name.
Snow.
Give her like a snap or.
Snow. Come here, Snow.
Good. Yeah, keep it at that. Yeah, let her come to you. Let her make her way to you. Good. Now, okay. Now grab the leash. There you go. There you go. Now correct her. Tell her no.
No, no.
Yeah. There you go. Now hold that leash up. Put her in the sit. There you go. Now release it. Yeah, release it. There you go. And again, remember, it's not about perfection in the beginning, because you're gonna mess up. You're gonna mess up, right? It's just like anything new we learn, right? It takes a minute for you to. There you go. It takes a minute for you to get the rhythm of it, right?
Okay, yeah, because I'm like, okay.
You were still holding. Yeah, and it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, but just keep in mind that as soon as they do what you want, it's okay. Just be patient with it. There you go. Yeah, and do it again. Trust me. Trust me. When she first came to me.
Oh, she was.
Oh man, it was,
I told you she was.
Yeah.
I felt like she was a bucking horse.
Well, I
like
mean, she
so I say, was she a horse? Is she mixed with a horse or what?
Yeah, but see, you have to. The most important thing is patience. You gotta be patient, right? Because it's not. Yeah, like right. She's too excited right now, so now we gotta wait, right? Hey. Yeah, we gotta wait, right? But this is okay because this is a part of the process, right? You guys can't learn how to control this unless you see it. You see what I mean? Because then once I leave and she starts doing this, oh, what the heck? You see, but now that you guys are seeing it, you know how to handle it, right? And I'm still gonna be, you can still call me and act you see and more than likely what I'm gonna tell you to do, similar to how we was talking now, is because typically what most people do when they call me, they tell me what the dog is doing. And I'm like, okay, my next question is, what are you doing? So typically what I tell people to do is, okay, hang up, call me on FaceTime. So I can see what you're doing, right? I know how to correct the dog. I need to see what you're doing so I can correct you so you can correct the dog. You see what I mean? So now, again, it's just a waiting game, right? No words. I may use the leash to physically communicate with her because in this heightened state of mind, my words don't mean nothing.
Right.
It's just in one ear and out the other.
Right, because that's how it was when like I told you, when that truck was going off, she wasn't paying
she's not
no
hearing
attention. She
none
wasn't
of that.
hearing none of that. She just had to get
all
out
of that. It's okay. It don't mean nothing to her because in her mind, she's dying. You see what I mean? So all you can do is just hold on. Wait it out, and once she realizes she ain't dead, then you can start the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Calm down now. Can I call her?
Not just yet.
Not just yet. Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you why.
Cause
The mouth, the panting is a sign of anxiety. The
Oh.
ears perked up, right? So what you, and this is all learning body language of dogs, right? So even though she's laying down, she's still a little bit too excited, right? I'm literally waiting on her to act like she don't even see you no more. I'm waiting on her to put her head all the way down, like she was before when I let the leash go. Like she was outside. She was all the way on her side. She was just like, okay.
I'm just laying down. Just telling.
Yeah. So that's what I'm waiting for. She's almost there, but these are the moments where they can trick you. Because if you did it right now, you
and
see.
I just went over here.
Yeah.
She know, but
Yeah.
I'm moving. Yeah.
So, and that's where I try to tell people all the time, like, look, I can take your dog and train it because I know how to read dogs, right? So I know how they're gonna act when they come with me. The hardest part for me is getting people to be, is getting people to be patient with the dog, and then getting them to become essentially a dog psychologist, right? Because when you own the dog, that's really what you have to be. Because if not, you don't know how to communicate with the dog. So yeah. Any other questions? Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna just kind of wait for her to calm down again. Hey. Come. Good girl. Yes. That's a good girl. Sit. There we go. Thank you. Down. There we go. Now, if you notice, she's putting her mouth on you, right? Now, again, that's kind of like that choosing the lesser of two evils, right? Her putting her mouth on me right now it's just anxiety, right? She has so much bottled up. She just doesn't know what to do with it, right? And the only thing she can do, because my hand was so close, because I'm putting her in the down, is just kind of, I gotta get this out, right? So in that moment, I'm choosing not to correct her, because
I gotta take which one.
you gotta choose your battles in the moment, right? So, and that's important as well, because if I go in to correct her then the other thing that I'm focused on goes out the window, which is her going in the down position, right?
Okay.
So there's moments where you choose, like, okay, I'm gonna focus on her with that mouthing, and then there's moments you choose whatever else you're working on. As long as she's not using her mouth in a truly aggressive manner, meaning she goes in and bites, right? So again, and that's where you really have to be in tune, you know, to know how to maneuver around those moments. Hey, good girl. Yes. Right. Even, and again, the nipping, it's the timing of it, right? So now, I'm trying to figure out the best way to explain it, because it's, to be honest, training is not really, it's not as systematic as most people think it is. It's really more so, how do you handle things in real time, right? It's learning the techniques and then being able to decipher what technique you want to use in real time, right? Because I can never predict, even though I can kind of assume what she's going to do, I can never predict what she's going to do, like, to the T. I can only respond when she gives me the behavior. So I have to have a Rolodex of things that I want to use to when she gives me the behavior, okay, this is what I want to do in the moment. So really a lot of the training is just like real life application. It's just you learning the techniques, no different than your job. You know, I'm sure there's moments in your job where it's like, you know, especially if you're managing people and you're trying to explain to them like, okay, these are the 5 different things you can do for this one situation. What's going to determine which of the 5 you're going to use in this situation is how you see this particular you see what I mean? So it's the same thing, but now you have the arsenal to choose what you want to use in that moment. Yeah, she's almost there. So yeah, so my goal anytime I drop a dog off is to give you the arsenal, and then as you, over time, this is why I say don't try to be perfect. Progression over perfection. Over time, you'll get that flow, and you'll know how to, you know, you'll know how to play the game with her. But because I train so many dogs, it's second nature for me now. You know what I mean? Good. She's almost there. Yeah. Any questions? Anything? There we go. Good girl.
When I go out, no, it's time for her.
Oh, she hit that door open. Okay, yeah, that's that. Yeah. So again, those are the signals, right? That's going to trigger some of those behaviors. So let me show you how to. I'm glad that actually happened. So we're going to use this front door, right?
Yeah, I'm expecting when she even listened to this door. When she hear that bell ring, she beat me to the door. So I'm like,
okay,
and I,
perfect. Do me a favor, close the door.
Close this door.
No, ma'am. I'm sorry. I was talking about that door. Hey. Right? So now the concept really stays the same for everything, right? When there are moments when she's getting excited, what your job is to teach her to be calm, right? So when you go open that door, so open the door, let me see how she responds. Okay.
I think you gotta probably ring the bell. Let me go ring the bell.
No problem. Hey, come. Hey. now in moments like this, right? Because we've been doing so much work, she didn't really. Oh, there we go. Hey, right. So it's a combination of correcting the bad behavior, right, which is the excessive excitement, and then giving her direction after the correction, right? So in a moment like that, if you know someone is coming, right, you be prepared. You have the leash on, right? And maybe it just until you get to the point where you can go to the door without having the leash, right? You open the door for them, tell them to come in. But you're standing here commanding her attention, right? So if she's barking at the door, hey. There we go, good girl, sit. And notice, I didn't say good girl until she began to look. There we go, good girl, yes. I'm always looking for her eyes, because her eyes is her brain, right? That's the pathway to her brain. Her brain can only focus on what she's looking at, right? Again, she's a predatory animal, right? They don't have the ability to multitask like we do. Like, I can talk to you and still be listening to the conversation over here, right? I can look at you and still pretty much know what's. They're so mono-focused because they have to be, right? So I know whatever she's looking at, that's what she's focusing on. So once she gives me her eyes, then I know I have her brain, right? So any situation like this, before I really give any praise or any direction, I'm looking for her eyes, right? So, hey, good girl, yes, that's a good girl. There we go, good girl. Sit. There we go, good girl. Good. So yeah, so this is the process, right? They walk in the door, and you're literally doing this until she does what we saw her do outside, right? And that's the process. Now, with her, it's going to take longer because of her genetics. That's just, that's just what it is. So, because as you can see here, she'll do it, and then 5 seconds later, her brain is telling her, go something else. You see what I mean? So it's a constant, okay, let's do it over. Let's do it. And then over time, her attention span is going to be able to expand. Yeah. But yes, I don't give praise or direction until I get her brain, because that's the only time she's really going to process what we're doing. Good. Hey, down. There we go. Good girl. That's good. Sit. Hey. Down. Good girl. Hey. Sit. This is the process. This is the process. Down. Good girl. Down. Right? And all I'm telling her is, you don't get up until I tell you to get up, right? When I give you something to do, you do that until I give you something else to do, right? But as you can see, it took 3 or 4 times. Well, she gets it. She's going to test you because it's just.
Well, because she feels like you're going to give up first before she gives up.
Exactly.
That's
Sit.
the only way it is.
Down. There we go. Good girl. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Yes, ma'am.
Just knows what everybody's going on, because it was just me and my son, so it's like.
Say that again.
I said, I know she's just seeing all the different.
It's a lot of action going on. Yeah. Now, is this typical? She normally have.
Well, not typical, but
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but this is good because now you get to see again in real time when it has so many different people and things going on, how to handle that. Yeah. Ain't that right? I know. Yeah. Yeah, I know. Yeah. So now, I have, well, you eat right now, so I don't know if you want to, what, if you want, you can call it now.
So,
And just wait for her to come. Don't pet her just yet. Now, what you would do in this moment, don't touch it with your hand. Take your knee, right? This is another another tool that you can use, right? When they come jump on you like that, just put your knee right in the chest, right?
Over there.
Right? No words just yet. There you go, use your knee. Right? Now when you use it, hey, snow. Snow. Come on, right? So when you do it, and it's gonna be hard for me to create it, right? It has to be, it's almost like a stiff arm, right? When you see her coming in, you wanna meet that force with her force. Because that's gonna communicate to her like you coming in too fast, you coming in too hot. Similar to how she was doing your son when she jumped up on him, right? It's the same thing, right? So when they come in like that, and you know they're coming in because you can see what they're aiming for, you just put that knee up, stop her in her motion, right? Then you allow her to calm down because similar to when she's out there and she's pulling on the chain, she's trying to run away. The conflict isn't necessarily with you, right? You want to do your best to separate yourself from the conflict that she's dealing with, right? So once you put that knee up and she goes back down on all fours, you let her process. Don't give her no words, just let her process, right? The next thing you're looking for is for her to submit to what you just told her. You're coming in too hot, relax. Once she sits down on her own, then you can start that verbal communication. Yeah? Hey. There we go. Come. Good girl. Yes. Sit. Hey. Thank you. Good girl. Yes. Good. So we'll try it again. If she comes in, just put that knee up and wait for her. Yeah.
Snow.
Knee up. There you go. There you go. Good. She sit?
She's sitting.
Yeah.
You saw she was sitting. Did you see her on the
I didn't see
mirror?
it. I'm trying to. Oh, yeah.
She's sitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. There you
So
go.
is that not something that she typically does? When she's in there, she's usually all over the place.
Yeah, I feel like that's why I tried to let going on.
Good. Now another trick you can use to get her to come to you is movement, right? So once you give the verbal, and when she recognizes that you gave her that verbal, start moving backwards, because that's going to entice her to come to you.
Snow.
Good, good. So let me show you. Hey, Snow.
That food.
So
That's what it is. That's the food. That food she gets.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Hey. No. Good girl. There we go. Good girl. Come on. Because now, what you're doing is, right, I was explaining to him. I was explaining to him another tool when you want her to come.
That's the food.
With the food,
Yeah,
right?
because she loves food.
Yes. Yeah, but she has her moments. Like,
outside, no.
it ain't food.
That the food ain't.
In the house, yes.
Yeah.
You can definitely use the food to your advantage. But even if you don't have food, because the thing about food is you can use it as a tool, similar to like the choke chain I was telling you, right? You don't want to overuse that either, because you don't want to become dependent on it, right?
Okay.
You don't want her to be a one-trick pony to where she only listens to you if you got food, right?
Right.
So now it's tough to compete with these smells, right?
Right.
Because I'm smelling the food and I'm getting hungry. And my brain is starting to, you see what I'm saying? So that's a tough, it's hard to compete with that, right?
Right.
So you use the food to your advantage. But another tool, I'm sorry, what was your name again, man? Tay. I was telling Tay, right? And again, he was competing with the food, so he probably wasn't going to win. But in a situation like this, where her senses wasn't being taken over by the food, and you're just kind of in the house chilling, and you call her name, right? And she's still kind of fixated on something, right? You call her name, and once she gives you that eye contact again, you start moving backwards, right? In a play, like you bend over and kind of move backwards, and hey, come. Because now what that does is that makes it fun for her, right? And anytime you associate a dog coming to you, you want it to be fun for her. because that's just gonna make it more, make her wanna come to you more. Because every time you call, it's like, ooh, you know, it's what's going on, what's good about to happen, right? So.
Cause you know, when I normally be in the kitchen, I have like slice up some cucumbers and, or have some ice, I'm like, how much Noah? She'll come and get it, cause she likes to crunch, she likes to hear herself crunch.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what she loves to chew on that ice and be like,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you like to hear yourself crunch, okay?
Yeah, believe it or not, that could be a like a nervous tick. You know, like some people bite their nails. Like even, and this is going into human psychology, but we're all mammals, so we're all very similar. Obviously, they don't operate at the same level we do, but the behaviors are very similar. Like eating certain foods is associated with certain emotional, what's the word I'm looking for? Your emotional state of being, right? So crunching is typically associated with stress. Crunching and salt. If you crave a lot of crunching and a lot of salt, that's typically associated with you got a lot of stress, right? If you crave sweets, that's typically associated with lack of companionship. So that's, believe it or not, that's why Valentine's Day is associated with chocolate, sweets, candy, and stuff like that. It's all literally associated with the same emotional behaviors. So that could be something that she's doing to cope with anxiety. It could be.
So do you think this dog was abused some kind of way?
I already asked him.
No. Because how old was when you got it?
I got her, I think I got her probably about, she was like 3 or 4 months, something like that.
Nah, because her physical behavior doesn't associate with her being physically abused. Typically when a dog is physically abused, they're very, yes. You know, you can see it, like they tense up when you come. She has none of that. She's just, I'll put it to you like this, genetically she was abused, but it wasn't on purpose.
It's a mad mix up.
Just a dog. It's just a dog there was no specific purpose behind the breeding. It was just 2 dogs that were bred, and those 2 dogs, whether it was the parents or the grandparents, somewhere in that lineage, dogs act like her. And then it made it even worse if somewhere in the lineage on both sides, dogs act like her. You see what I mean? So now you compound that and you have her. So physical abuse, no, I highly doubt it because I don't see any of the signs of physical abuse. But, you know, genetically she is who she is. She got the short end of the stick. Not in looks, but she's a beautiful dog. Every time oh my God, she's so beautiful. You know, especially that all white, you know, that just wins people over. But genetically, the eyes, yeah.
The eyes is what get everybody like, oh.
Yeah. So, yeah, but that's the mistake a lot of people get. They get a dog because of the way it looks, and they don't take into consideration what's in their head. Yeah. So yeah, folks, that's that. Hey. Good. There we go.
Food. Yeah, it's not food.
Yeah. Yeah.
Miss me, see.
Good.
I just let her sniff what I have.
Well,
she see what I have, so she'll know that it's nothing to harm her. Sometimes.
It's not necessarily a bad thing, right? I'll be honest with you. Sometimes I put it to you like this, right? Like children. Like our children ask us questions sometimes, and it's like, it ain't none of your business. You see what I mean? Sometimes it ain't none of her business. So it's not necessarily a bad thing that you do that, but what I'm really saying is, when you do that, what does it do for you? Because it really doesn't do anything for her. So, is it more of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's like almost when you do that, you are giving her permission to, well, how do I want to put this?
Is that part of a way where she shows love as an owner, like a love language, kind of?
Yes,
I don't know.
thank you.
Something
I was
similar.
trying to figure out how to. But
Trying
yes,
to read your thoughts a little bit, you know.
It's almost like when you do that, it's a form of enabling.
Oh.
You see what I mean? Because as opposed to setting that hard line, like, hey, get out of here. Like, this ain't got nothing to do with you, right? It's almost like, hey, you know, it's okay. Everything is okay, right? It's the empathy. That's the word I'm looking for, right? It sounds like that's your empathy kicking in. But in that moment, it's unnecessary.
Right. It's just sometimes I'll be trying to introduce sometimes when I have like something like a food that I want her to try, I'll let her come up and I'll let her sniff it and like it's okay to come in, you know, sniff it and see that it's a good, you know, because if I'm trying to introduce her to something new to eat, and then I'll have it and I let her sniff it and see if she gonna accept it.
You know what? To be honest, if she's gonna eat it, she's gonna eat it.
Okay.
If you offer it and she don't want it, you see what I'm saying? So it's almost like, and again, it's that empathy. It's almost like, perfect example, like the toppers, right? You was explaining to me how sometimes she didn't want to eat her food, so you would buy the extra toppers and stuff like that to entice her to eat it. I'll be honest with you. If she don't eat what you give her, she ain't hungry. Because now, and the reason why that's so important, I don't want that to sound harsh, but I do want it to sound harsh. Not more so for her, but for you. Because that's that empathetic spirit that kind of enables her some of those behaviors that we're talking about. If she don't eat what you offer, take it away.
In other words, stop spoiling the damn.
I don't know. I guess it's like I guess it takes from your upbringing. Not to say that we were certain things we couldn't eat. I guess you can't say that because I can say, you know, things that my mother would have, and she would say, no, you can't have none, or she had just limited to you. But then when she was through with it, then she gave it to you. Yeah. And so I guess that's me trying to say, okay, you know, I can share with you. You know, I'm not gonna hold back here. I'm willing to share. So.
Yeah, but again, anything you offer her is a privilege for her.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? It's not a right. It's a privilege. So if you offer her something and she acting bougie about it, okay.
But it was a time that when she didn't eat one time, I said, okay, I said, you don't want to eat? I put it up. Yeah. And when I put it back down that next day, she was like, so into it. I was like, okay, you're going to learn. I said, because I can't, look, you spend more money than me.
Exactly. Exactly. You see, so all those extra toppers, I mean, it's okay, but it's why are you doing it?
Okay.
You see, it's the why behind it. And most of the time when people do stuff like that, okay. But if she's like that and he's okay with it, then let it be. As long as she's not jumping on him.
See, sometimes she be jumping on him. She used to jump on him when he used to be in there. And if he in there or he in his and she just beat on the door so he can open the door and she wants him to pay attention to him.
Yeah. So that's where using two people, right? So moments like that, especially if you're here and that leash is on her, that's where you correcting her saying, no, you can't be doing that, right? So yeah, that's how you handle that. But as long as he's okay and she's, you know, and she's calm and he's fine, then I don't see anything wrong with it. So yeah, yes ma'am. But yeah, so you know, with the food and actually.
Just stop with all that. Okay. All right. Well, I didn't already went and bought this stuff. So
yeah, I mean, if you got it now,
so
feed it to her. But to be honest with you, I would just start I would start with just the kibble. Because I'm sure, I know she's gonna eat it because she's been eating it with me, and I do mostly hand feeding.
Okay.
So now, this is what I want you to do. This is the game plan, right? So now when you go to feed her, because she didn't eat today, and I did that on purpose, so you can use it as a tool. Matter of fact, let me go get her food real quick so I can show you, and then I promise that'll be the last thing. Let me go get that real quick. I'll be right back. Yeah. I'll be back. Hold on.
Snow. Come on, Snow. No. Now you see that. She go to the door. Sit. Come on. Sit.
So you grab him. Yep, you got it, yeah.
So, oh, this way?
Yep.
I'm here.
And back her from the door. Tell her come.
Come on.
Tell her come.
Come on.
Nope.
Sit.
Yeah. So now when he comes back in, you can go over there. And so when he comes back in and she tries to do whatever she's gonna do, then you can correct her over there, but you wanna lead her away from the door.
Come on, son. Come on, son. Come on.
Yep.
Sit, Snow. Like this. Sit. Good girl.
All right, so I'm gonna set this here, right? So now, the food, what I would do is whatever bowl you use, you can ration out, in the bowl. There you go. Yeah, you can ration out in the bowl, but take it out the bowl, in your hand, and use it to help train. So I'll show you. Right. So, Snow, girl, yes, sit. Good. Now she knows hand signals, right? Because I use the food to teach her hand signals, right? So this, and I got a little bit too much in my hand, but I'll take a little kibble, right? And this means sit, right? Now, this means down, right? So when I put the finger down, that means down, right?
So I see her nose going down.
Yeah. She's a little excited, but she'll get it in a minute, right? So typically how it works is, when I want her to sit, I present it like this, sit. Now again, it's the same concept as the leash, right? Because the higher I go, right? Physiology says that the higher you look up, the lower her butt has to go, right? So once I present it to it like this over her head, right? Hey, sit, good girl, right? Then I take her down, good girl. And that's when I reward her, right? But I'm feeding her out of my hand because that creates more of a bond between you two. And then also, that puts you in control of the food, right? So now as opposed to her, you just kind of setting the food down and letting her choose when she wants to eat, and she start acting bougie about it, she can only get it when you offer it. You see what I mean? So now it creates more of that fear of loss, right? To where if she don't get it now, you ain't gonna get it till the next time I'm ready to offer it to you, as opposed to it just being there and you can make the decision on when you want to eat it. I don't want to eat that today unless you put that extra stuff on top of it. You see what I'm saying? So, yeah. So that's how that works.
Okay.
So you, again, use everything as leverage for your benefit, as opposed to just giving her all the power.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Sometimes when I'm running out for work, so that's the thing as far as my schedule. That's the
hard
whole
part.
problem.
Yeah, and that's something you're gonna kind of have to, and it can literally be 5 minutes, right? So even if you put it in a bowl, right? Let's say you put it in a bowl, and you take her through the routine with the food in the bowl, but she don't get to eat until she sit, until she down, right?
Yes, because when I do give her the food, she knows not to come to me until I put that
Until
food
you put
down.
it down. Okay.
Yeah, and then she come when I put the food down. Then she come and eat because I don't until she sit down.
Yeah.
Then that's when I put the food down. But once she knows when I don't put the food down while she's jumping and stuff like that, I don't do that. So that's one good thing I can say about her. She do not attack me or jump on me when I have food in my hand. She know I'm walking to put her food down, and she sit there and I say sit, and then when I put it down, then that's when she gonna eat.
Good.
So that's one good thing I can say. She was the one.
Yes, ma'am. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's that. That's that. You know, and like I said, don't hesitate. Reach out, call. You know, more than likely, I'm gonna say, hey, let's get on the FaceTime. Yeah, put that. Yeah. Use it the best way I can.
Sheila.
If she uses her feet, you use your knee.
Yeah,
Match. You see what? So if she's putting her feet on you put your knee in her chest to let her know, give me space. You're in my space, and I didn't give you permission to be in my space. Yeah. So yeah, folks, that's that. That's that. You know. Any last questions before anybody? No.
Yes.
That's that.
She don't attack the dad. She don't go. You know, she know her food. She never used to attack it. She never used to go in there and do it because it was how she was able. She was able to get to her food.
If you don't want her on you, tell her to move.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, ma'am. Come on. You have to tell her to move if you don't want her to do that. Okay? Or what Daddy told you. Come on. Come on, Snow. Girl.
Okay, folks. Well, that's that. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. And then, you know, let's talk a little bit more, I guess in a day or so, about, you know, where you want to go with the protection. Like I said, we can do it with her. It's just a matter of the time, investment, you know, how long it's going to take for her to get to a point to where she will be a formidable deterrent, because she will never be what I would consider a full protection dog. So, and you know, we'll talk about what that looks like. I'll send you some videos of my wife handling some dogs. You know, that way it shows you it's not necessarily the size of the dog, it's if you have control of the dog's brain. You know, the dog can be 200 pounds if you got control of the brain. It's like it's 20 pounds. Yeah, so we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'll let you kind of get acclimated.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's your bag. Yeah, that's her. You know, her leash and all of that stuff in there. Yeah.
You saying goodbye?
Bye, Snow.
Yeah. There you go. There you go. Yeah. Oh, you can touch her now. It's just a matter of how you touch her, right? So it's the state of mind. Yeah.
Good girl.
So you want to wait till she's calm to really, you know, come in and give her affection.
Look at her.
Exactly. Yeah. Now what you do is back up from the door. Yep. So essentially what you're doing, you're taking away what she wants, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Yep. And then once she calms down, then you can move forward again. Yeah. And again, that applies to any walk, any situation. Yep. And you just no, that's all you got stuff. That's all the the shirts and toys and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. All right, folks.
Okay. Thank you.
No
Bye.
problem.
It was
no
nice
problem.
meeting you
We'll be
all.
talking soon. All right, folks. That's it. So that is how we do the handover. You know, me personally, man, it's way more important for the handler to learn psychology of dogs so they can maintain what I do with a dog. Because I know once I take a dog in, I can get the dog to perform how I want it to perform, right? But for me, it's a major win when I spend that time with the owners to get them to understand the psychology of a dog. So look, you guys have been with us long enough. I appreciate you for tuning in. Any questions, you can always reach out. And look, if you have not, I need you to like this video. If you have not, I need you to share this video. If you have not, I need you to subscribe to the channel. And until the next video, you are the master of your faith, the captain of your soul. Stay safe, buddy.